Good evening and welcome to the Hugh Hatrick Show. We're live here on Tuesday night, broadcasting from the northeast of England and with a very special guest indeed. It is Tiny Turnip. Welcome. Welcome to the
Hello.
show. Tiny Turnip, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for. Oh, I realise that I'm going in stereo. You could probably hear that behind me. But how are you doing today? It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really good. I've been dead excited to come on ever since you asked me a few weeks ago. And yeah, I'm looking forward to all the questions everyone's got.
Now we've got lots of your community here as well. The fact they've been here for about half an hour before it all started, which is a great sign. That so it's welcome to everyone from Tiny Turnips community and to also from the Hugh Hatrick community as well. It's good to see you all, and we'll be ready to answer your questions in a few minutes. But we'll start with an easy one for you, Tiny. How did it all begin? How did you start gaming, and what kind of brought you into gaming?
Gaming, I've gamed for as long as I can remember. PlayStation 1, little girl, all the sort of like Spyros and Mario Karts and all those kind of games. I've literally always been a gamer, like even on phones or PlayStations or whatever. So yeah, it just kind of goes from there, doesn't it? If it's something you love, it just builds. And then I started looking into like streaming and things like that. So it's good that I can do something that I really, really love and have loved for such a long time.
It's great, isn't it? Because when you start playing games at a young age, they just stick with you, isn't it? I mean, if you get something you like, you just keep on playing it. So we got GT Sport, Gran Turismo in the late '90s when it first came out, and it's just every PlayStation that we've had, we've got the latest version of it. How did you come across Gran Turismo? Is that something you've played for quite a long time?
Would you believe no? I have played Gran Turismo before. It was one of the earlier versions. It was like number 2 or 3, I think. I can't ever really remember which one it was, but it was definitely an earlier version. And I played it very casually. I was just doing like the license tests and things. I was like a teenager, wasn't taking it too seriously. And then I never touched the game again until last year. And just on a whim, one of my streams that I was doing took off whilst I was playing it, and it's just stuck ever since. So here I am.
Yeah. And how do you find like GT7? Because it's a kind of love-hate relationship. Some people like it, some people don't. Do you find you quite enjoy playing the game?
Yeah, I think it's obviously sentimental for me, because without the game, like this whole journey wouldn't be where it is, I don't think. And without the people associated with the game and the community that we built. So even if there was things about the game that weren't great, and there's always things that could be improved in every game, I think the sentiment of this game and what journey it's put me on, it trumps everything for me, really.
Yeah, because it is good. Kind of the graphics are good, and if you get into a good race in it, it can be quite fun, and you get such a wide range of cars to drive. Do you have any particular favorite kind of combinations of cars and tracks?
Yeah, so there's a few. Oh, there's Romeo in the chat. I see him. He knows what I'm about to say. the Group 3 Mustang at Bathurst, the Subaru at the Impreza at Sardinia Windmills. We had some really good fun the other night on that.
Yeah.
And then I just love like the McLarens and like the Ferraris as well. Anything that kind of sticks. I'm a big fan of those, but with any track, really.
Yeah. So how do you find, because the rallying is quite tricky, and they've done quite a lot of time trials, haven't they, with rallies recently with the new Subaru Impreza, the Colin McRae car. How did you find that? Because I found that I was terrible. I could barely get round. I was about 4 seconds, 5 seconds off any kind of reasonable time. Is it something that you've found quite straightforward?
Yeah, do you know what? It is my favorite part of GT7 is the rally and the snow. When they added in Lake Louise, I was over the moon. I just love drifting, actually. I love like the car losing a bit of control and being able to snap it back. I actually prefer it, and it's why I've actually looked into some other games like Dirt and a few things that people have been throwing around, because although I do love the tracks and things like that, it just seems I'm better on dirt for some reason. So
yeah, that's really good. because they're quite that lit. The Impreza is really snappy. I
Mm,
found it really hard to control, to figure out when it was gonna, when you had to skid it one way to try and get out of the slide, and it obviously takes a certain knack to be able to get the best out of it.
yeah.
But no, that is quite something. So do you do a lot of the rally kind of formats on your community nights and things like that?
Actually, we don't, and there is a reason for it, because you can't obviously apply BOP to the rally cars. So as much
Right.
as you say, everyone come with stock cars,
Yeah.
there'll be someone all of a sudden 15 seconds faster and with
Yeah.
an altered gearbox or something, and there's no way of proving it. So it's a bit of a nightmare to deal with. But we're going to look to do one where we alter the power allowance into the lobby.
Yeah.
It won't fully fix it, but it might help. It's been one of them battles with us, really.
Yeah. That's quite. So, what seems to be your main kind of combination that you do for your community nights? It's that if it's not rallying, what do you find is popular?
What I try and do is match the country track to the country car. So
All right, yeah, if it's Italian, you could have yeah.
There's not really any. We try and do as many different combinations as we can, street cars and race cars, and also just some really weird combos, because I think it's really easy to stick with the kind of known things and like the ones that everyone is really good at driving. So we throw some like crazy things in, and like on Turnips Twisted Track Day, for example, we had like Jimneys at Bathurst. They were barely making it up the hill, but it was the funniest thing, and it challenges all the drivers so differently, because they're used to driving like Mustangs or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really good fun just trying so many different combinations.
And why is the Mustang one of your favourites? What do you like about the Mustang?
The Mustang. So when I first started going a bit more serious with GT7, and I got a wheel, and I was practicing all the time trials, and Romeo, who is in here somewhere, I saw him before, was calling me out. I was actually at Deep Forest, I think, at the time, doing some trying to break records on times and things like this. And he was like 1v1 me. So I was like, okay. So Romeo's got years of experience. He raced with the team at the time. I was brand new on a wheel, and being the stubborn woman that I am, I was like, right, let's do this. And he chose the track, he chose the car. He is from Australia. It's his, it's his home track, and I beat him. So,
all right.
Romeo. And so I've got a love for that combo now, because we put so much work into beating him. I really had to grind.
Yeah, we saw some great Mustangs on Saturday at Silverstone. They were doing drifting around because it was quite wet on the Saturday, and they were drifting around all sorts of other cars. They would put them on the track, and then they would go around, and it was quite. I have to say, it was quite impressive, and they do sound great. But no, it's quite a handful of a car to drive.
Yeah, it can be for sure.
Yeah. So what in terms of you mentioned some of the cars you like on Gran Turismo, like the Ferraris and the McLarens. Is there any other particular type of cars that you quite like driving or using for GT7?
For GT7, I honestly, I think it is like the supercars. I think the way they stick and like the snappiness of them. When you go to sort of more like the street cars is where I probably am lacking in experience, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But it's always a work in progress, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, I know. I love the Ferrari Enzo. The Enzo is just such a nice car. I've bought some of the classics when they come up in the Legends bit, and that's always quite. They handle so nice, and the engines are nice, and then you can lap around Monza, which is always quite fun in them, and they always seem to go quite well. But all the kind of classic Ferraris are decent, but yeah, no. So it is good fun. And that's the nice thing about GT7 is that they're always adding great cars, aren't they? Always, they're finding these kind of classics coming. Actually, sometimes it's quite a nice way of just relaxing by going and driving one of those cars and just having fun doing some of your own lapping to see what the cars are like. But so do you also do a lot of that? Because I know you stream on Twitch and on YouTube. Do you find that you do the daily races as well? Do you do quite a lot of that when you stream?
Not in my stream. So it's one of these things I can't. I like to be quite interactive with my stream, and as anyone who's been in my stream, it can get a little bit unhinged. And I found I just didn't enjoy looking away for 15-20 minutes, essentially.
Yeah,
Like, obviously catching the odd thing out the corner of my eye, but like I felt it really took away from what streaming was for me, and that's like creating a fun, bouncy environment for everyone. So what I've done is I've put dailies down to content, so I record that in my own time, and I publish that on like YouTube Shorts or whatever. And then the sort of lobbies and the time trials and like the fun stuff where I can do both, that goes onto my live streams.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing. Well, we'll go to the community and we'll start asking. I bet you've been looking forward to
I will
all night.
sabotage you all.
Now, for those who are watching and would like to ask a question to Tiny Turnip, if you could put your questions in capitals, and that just allows me to read that a little bit easier. But we'll soon have questions for you. So I'll ask the first one. Who annoys you most in your community?
In my community? Ooh, who annoys me the most?
This is your chance. This is your chance to show them up.
I'm just going straight up. It's Romeo. He is always there with a joke, trying to throw me off, inappropriateness in my ear at all times. Anything I say gets turned into something it's not meant to mean. So Romeo, that is for you.
Well, he has replied here saying, when is Romeo getting his replay?
Hopefully, I'm just going to say next year. It'll be next year now. I need to prepare for this because you're going to come in hot, and you're definitely the most improved driver on my series. So I've got to step up my game. And I do love it, by the way. Yeah, Mrs. Romeo says, but you love it. I do. I give it back as just as good as I get.
It's always quite fun when you get that, isn't it? When you get a bit of banter, it's good. It's good for it all to work. Now we've got a question from Hamajiril. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. People mostly see your work during streams. How many hours would you say you're working per week that people don't see? For example, for montage, planning new things, analysing, and preparing everything.
I honestly could be working every waking minute, like without question. And to be honest, I'm filling every spare minute that I have. Some days I don't have as many spare minutes as others, but I'd say every spare hour I have, I'm editing videos, I'm rewatching things, I'm taking clips, I'm on socials. I'd say I put in 90% behind the camera and 10% on the camera. So yeah, a lot of hours.
That is a lot. But it's building nicely. If you're at 9,500 subscribers, it'll be getting to that point where it will start to reward you, which is good. And now German Kiwi has asked a question here. Do you find that being a lady, that drivers are more respectful?
No, not at all. No, it's one of these things, and I take it on the chin, to be honest with you, because it just happens in so many ways. But people don't like it really if a woman beats them, and this is a bit of a generalization. There's loads of people that I've driven against that are super respectful and like polite, but I'd say generally speaking there is a bit of a woman driver stigma that we have to overcome, to be honest with you.
I know, that's it. Trying to always beat the person who's streaming, isn't it? That's it. Whose channel it is. Now we've got a good question here from the real Mystic. Is what is your real life car and what is your real life dream car?
So my real life car is a Jag. So nice. I've got a F-Pace Jag and an Audi A3.
Wow.
So yeah, very different cars. I love SUVs, to be honest. I love the comfort and the sort of safety aspect that if you get into a smash, you've got a lot of car around you.
Yeah.
My dream car, I've always said it's a hard answer, but and this is where the girl stigma comes in. I've always wanted a red Ferrari, and I've never said which Ferrari because I think truthfully, I would want to drive them all and see which one drove better. Like on looks, I've said like Ferrari LaFerrari, or whatever. Maybe some of the classic ones, but I just a red Ferrari, and until I've test driven, I don't know which one.
I mean, the thing is, some of them are absolutely beautiful, aren't they? Especially the classic ones are incredible. Especially the 60s and the 70s, we had some amazing machines. But even the modern day stuff, I once drove one on a track day. It was just a kind of one of these ones where you go and you get like 5 laps, and you pay £100. But they gave me it was a Ferrari, was it a 360 convertible? And it was red, in effect, and it was nice, and they are surprisingly quick. Actually, you kind of forget that you're in a car because it's mid-engine. The engine's right behind you, and you hear it wonderfully. It's a great sound, but they're so quick, and it's quite. They have to be quite careful when they tell you when to accelerate and when to brake, because you think actually this car could quite easily, you could lose control quite easily unless you're kind of ready for it. But and I wasn't, so I never really driven anything like it. So, but I could drive, normal rear-wheel drive cars that are kind of front-engined rear-wheel drive, because that's kind of more normal, like a BMW kind of thing. But with these cars, you could tell it could be quite tricky. You just think it could just snap off if you didn't kind of listen to what the instructor was saying. But no, that sounds like a good choice. A Ferrari convertible and a nice. The Jag F-Pace is lovely, and that is a nice car. I drove it was the special vehicles version once, and that had the V8 supercharged V8 engine in it, and that's an amazing machine. But yeah, there's lots of great cars in that kind of group as well. It's a great choice of fun. Do you quite like? Is it quite? And the Jaguar should be nice to drive, I would imagine.
It's a dream to drive. It's dead comfy. It's a big car, so it's heavy, but it's nippy for what it is. If you drive it in anything other than sport mode, though, it can bog down a little bit. So sport, dynamic, and then it's got a little bit of pace considering its weight, to be fair.
Yeah. No, it's a great. I do like those Jaguars. Now Simon has asked a question here. He says, "Have you ever attended a live motorsport event?"
Yeah, very recently, actually, the Turnip community and the Bib and Dribble community met up, which is Rob Barker's league, which he's running right now. We went to Donington for the British Touring Car Championship it was like a couple of months ago. So yeah, not that long ago at all.
Fantastic. Donington's a great circuit. I've not been there for years, but no, it makes a great, especially for touring cars. It makes a fantastic event. In fact, the last time I was at Donington, I actually saw Nigel Mansell race in the touring cars back in the 90s when he had his big crash. And then before that, I saw the European Grand Prix in 1993, where I saw Senna win. I was only 18 at the time. So it was a birthday present, and I was there with a friend and his father, and so we went down and we watched it. And that was the most incredible Grand Prix. It's the only one I've ever seen, but it was a day I'll never forget. To see those cars and to see Senna was something else, and to win in such a dramatic way was amazing. Now we've got another question from Rob. It says, "How did you come up with the TTT concept?"
So we were just running laps, a few of us, and a lot of you probably in the community know Hawko. He was with us and he was just being a pest. And so Queen Bee over here decided to start telling him doing, silly things like, right, if you're so fast, you've got to beat us in reverse. Or you've got to do one lap completely in reverse, we'll drive forward, and then you've got to catch us up and unlap yourself, essentially. So we did all these weird races, and then after, it was hilarious. The stream went down a hit, everyone was howling, and I came away and I was speaking with a few people in the Turnip community, and I was like, this could be a thing, this is actually really funny if we got it right and didn't make it too it's got to still have a racing element to it. So yeah, that was literally from just messing around with a few people on track. It was born. It was amazing.
Wow, that's always how these things start, isn't it? And when you know it works, and that leads into the next question from Hamajil. When and what happened that made you realise that streaming may actually be working and that you're building something here?
I never think that it's working because you're inside and you always want to be doing better. I think when I've sort of realised that this is building quite quick is this year. So I started the end of the last year on 900 YouTube subs, and now we're on 9,000. So we've 10 times that in.
That's very good.
So I think that the speed the numbers are going up at the moment is where I'm kind of okay, there's momentum and we need to build and stay on the curve. But I never really think it's anything more than what it is right now. You got to just stay in the moment,
Yeah. And is there a kind of a goal that you're kind of heading for with the GT7, or is there, and also with the channel, are you trying to aim for a particular kind of set of numbers, or kind of or a particular, do you have a goal for your channel?
For the channel, not really numbers, because I think numbers can be like something and nothing really. The numbers don't
Yeah.
always mean what's really going on. I think the goal for me personally is to make this a job, essentially.
Yeah.
And in terms of for the series, it's to bring in some big sponsors, to bring in some big names and just try and boost it into maybe more than just what it is now. Where that goes, I don't know. We've got ideas, but
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll just see what happens. But we're always working towards reaching out to people, and we've already got a few sponsors for the series, for the prizes and things like that. But we
Excellent.
always want more. So
Yeah, I see you've got plenty of affiliate links. And I thought I was looking at, was it Rogue Energy?
yeah.
That's one of the one that's there, and I thought, yeah, that's quite good because it's like one of these energy drinks, and but I take it not it's got not as much caffeine as a Red Bull.
Well, it's interesting because I've had loads of energy companies sort of reach out, and anyone who knows me personally or just from the stream knows that I've actually got 2 heart conditions, which means I can't drink caffeine.
All right,
And
yeah.
loads of times I've said, if you ever see me sign up to an energy company, know that it's not, it doesn't mean anything. But they then said, no, we know that you can't drink caffeine. We actually do a hydration version of our energy drinks, which are caffeine free. And we'd love you to sort of represent that. So that's how I ended up being a partner with them. Actually, it was them acknowledging that I couldn't drink caffeine, but they had an alternative, which was great.
That's really good. So does it actually, I mean, it seemed like a more kind of healthy alternative as well than some of the energy drinks that you see out there. So I think it's kind of, you find that it has no, I suppose there's no after effects, or in terms of it just helps you stay focused kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like zero sugar and all the rubbish that you kind of get pumped into some of these other drinks. Yeah, they're really good. Everyone who's had them has sung their praises. I've obviously only had the hydration, which is meant to just keep you sort of your electrolytes and everything up in balance. So if you're ever feeling like hungover, it's great to smash one of them back, and it just boosts you all back up again. But they're really, really good. I highly recommend people trying them.
Yeah, I know. I saw the link, so I thought I'll have to maybe try that and see what it's like. But because it looked like quite a good, there's a more healthier product than you see, which is important. Now, the Mystic has asked, what do you think of the Dodge Tomahawk X? Do you think it's too fast or just fast enough?
It's just crazy. It's just absolutely nuts. I mean, it's fun. Like, don't get it wrong, it is fun, but it is silly fast. It's like, it's not even real, really, is it? It's crazy compared to anything else that there is. So
yeah, the VGT cars are kind of, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of them. I mean, I suppose it's like putting concept cars in the game is interesting. But I remember they had one car, I think it was the Genesis that they had at Monza for a time trial, and it was virtually impossible to drive. You had to take the last corner in about 6th or 7th gear, and even then it was virtually swapping ends. And it was good, but some of them are a bit easier to drive than others, I suppose. But yeah, when you just know if you get a daily race and it's got like the VGT cars, it's going to be a bit crazy. So what are your, when you do daily races for content, what are your favorite combinations to play in that? What makes you think, oh yeah, I would definitely want to do that race?
I love a couple of tracks. I love like Majori in maybe like a group 3, Yamagiwa, and like the Kyoto tracks. They're great for faster cars.
Yeah.
I'm really not keen on like the the expressway tracks, the big wally tracks, the very narrow. They're not for me. But anything that's a little bit wider, group 3, group 4, perfect. That's in a nutshell.
Yeah, they're quite fun, aren't they? They're nice to drive. And if there was a track that you could have in GT7 that's not there now, what would it be? Or you have more than one?
Oh my goodness. Well, because I was there, Donington.
Yeah, that would be a good track, to be fair.
Yeah, and it's a bit like it's a bit like, yeah, it's got obviously the big hills and all that as well, so it's a little bit more, it's a bit different to sort of, I'm trying to compare it to like Goodwood really, but it's hard to compare in that sense.
Yeah.
loads of people always say as well, like Monaco should be in there, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
it used to be in, and that was in the
It's
earlier
not my
games.
kind of track though. Like that's tight walls, and it's just not for me.
Now, we've got an interesting question from
Okay.
Hamajio. He says, "Do you see yourself as very vindictive on track or outside?"
Both. I will always get my revenge. I think it's justified. Put it that way.
And Rob has asked, "What do you think of this week's dailies?"
So we've got Grand Valley South, and we've got a Suzuka. Is it? Is that the two
Yes,
dailies this
yeah,
week?
and we've got Race Hay at Red Bull Ring
Red Bull
in
Ring,
the Group
yeah.
3.
Grand Valley South, I've had so little experience on because obviously it's a relatively new track to well, not new, but you know what I mean. It's one of the newer tracks that got added into GT7, and I've just not had that much track time there. And it can be a little bit slippery, so not one that I've gone for. Suzuka just isn't, without being negative Nancy over here, Suzuka just isn't one of my favorite tracks. So this week's dailies aren't really my bag. If I was going to do any of them, it would be Daily A for Red Bull Ring, but obviously Daily A's just aren't. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? That because it's certainly Race A, it's a tough track, Red Bull track. There's so little in it. When you like with the corners and even the first corner is so bumpy. When you try and go through that, and it unsettles the car, and if you just even accelerate slightly, it'll just spin round, and then everyone goes for a move on turn 3, aren't they? They're always trying to push through there. But I do like it. That it's well, that's good. I'm just checking to see because unfortunately I've got my YouTube. I was watching it earlier, setting it up, and it's playing what we're saying. But thankfully nobody's hearing it, so that's good.
Oh, good.
that was the main thing. But it'll go out as a podcast later on. But now DTR Cars, it says he's not a Suzuka fan because of course that Suzuka is on Race C this week. Now Suzuka is quite a good old style track. Not too many walls on that. Is that a track that you like?
I just don't like Suzuka. Maybe again, I'm not. I've got my tracks that I'm good at, and what I'm working on this year, because I don't get that much time to sort of practice in the back between everything else going on. What I'm working on over this year is just to sort of go out of my comfort zone with the tracks that I'm good at. And I've either got tracks I'm good at or I'm like really bad at, and Suzuka falls into the really bad at one. So I just need to get a bit more practice in on some of these tracks, to be honest, and then maybe I'll change my view.
Yeah. It is difficult. And some of the tracks, there's always a really difficult corner, and they always put something in at the end or midway through that you think, it just ruins the flow of the track. It's like, was it the one that's, it's not Grand Valley, it's the other one that they do, it's Deep Forest Raceway. And in the old game, the last chicane in the old game was much easier. It wasn't as tight, but as you come down the hill and you've got it, and it's really hard to clip the curb and get a good exit out on the right. So it's kind of. So I know they have to kind of renew things and develop it, but I always kind of find those circuits are quite tricky, especially the ones where you're driving over sand as well. If you're going to take the right line for the corner, you've got to be virtually going through anything. In real life, that just wouldn't happen.
No, you're gone. Yeah.
You know, and that's the kind of thing. Is there anything as well in the game that that annoys you, or you think that shouldn't be in there, or you think it doesn't, it makes it more unrealistic?
Not real. Not the unreal. Well, yeah. Sometimes the way the cars come off the track, you just think there's no way. Like there's just no way. But the thing that really bugs me more than anything in the game is the penalty system. How you can get hit. It's one of my clips that you've seen probably recently. You can get hit into a barrier. That person doesn't get a penalty for hitting you, but then you get a barrier collision penalty. Like, just it's wild to me, some of the penalties that get given out on the game, and I think it just really needs addressing, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it's hard because they've tried so many different things. For a while, there was like no penalties on anything, wasn't it? It was kind of wild. But it's still, I think it's still tricky. And even when you go back into racing, because I was away for a week or two, and so coming back into the daily races, you just forget how kind of ruthless people are when playing the dailies, and they just go for any gap, even gaps that you wouldn't think are not on. They'll try and do that, but that's the thing that gets me. And if they do end up pushing you off, they seem to have very little spatial awareness for for that. But then you probably find that I'm complaining as nearly 50 years old. It's probably a 12-year-old who's you're competing against doing the same thing, who doesn't really care about what they hit, isn't it? They're just playing the game.
Yeah, but they should be penalised and then know. That's how you learn. Like, you get a penalty and then you go, oh, I won't do that again. But like, there's nothing. Like, the amount of times I've been like, my race is gone. Like, I've been completely killed in the barrier, over the grass, the gravel, everything.
Yeah.
And then by the time I've got back on track, I'm like a minute behind everyone else. And that kid comes third. And it's like, well, how are they learning?
Yeah.
So that's okay. They're still going to get third and I'm in the gravel, It's really frustrating.
And how do you find as well, when you're slowing down, a lot of people use the engine braking quite a bit. Now, obviously, in real life, you would blow your engine and your wheels would lock up in that bit.
Yeah.
Do you find that something? I mean, people many times have to use it if you're going to get a good lap time. Is that something that you like to do, or is it something that you just take for granted kind of thing?
Do you know what? Yeah, I hear what you're saying about in real life you blow your engine at the speeds, but I do love like engine braking in real life where I can.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. Obviously, I've never done it at like 140 miles an hour going into a corner, but so yeah, I think it's just like it's an attenuated version of what you do in real life, and like maybe because you haven't done it on a fast car, engine, it's just like you take it for granted a bit.
I'm going to say, is there a car in Gran Turismo that isn't there that you would like to see? Any particular types of cars that you would like?
That is a good question. Let me have a think while we talk a bit further. I'll have a think about that and we'll come back. I can't. That isn't in Gran Turismo.
And Woody has said it's polyphony that annoys him in the game. Or PH is saying that annoys him in the game, so I'm presuming that means polyphony. It is, of course, Woody Boy is very fast. Normally gets times as quick as Tisney or even faster on the time trials, which is good. So I'm always trying to think he's always well ahead of me in these things. Did you quite like doing the time trials? Is that another kind of part of GT7 that you do?
Yeah, that's where this all started, and it's where loads of traction came. I would sit on stream, I would pick a track, I'd do the sectors, then the full lap, and I'm a bit of an addictive personality, so like it's never good enough. And there was one night I was doing high speed ring, and it was my second day having the wheel. This was all like back then where it was really, really starting to like get a bit of traction. And we sat till 2:00 in the morning and we had pretty much like the whole stream. It was a full stream. We had like probably like 80 viewers or something like that.
Wow.
All trying to beat me on this time trial. Sector 2, I think it was, of high speed ring. And in the end, at like 2:00 in the morning, I managed to get number 9 on the world rankings.
Wow.
And as you can imagine, I was like a complete newbie at this game. And like I just did this corner for like 5 hours straight and got on the track. So everyone like erupted. And then by the end of that night, we had five out of the 10 top 10 times were turnips.
So, that's really good, because that is a tricky track.
That's how this all started. Like dailies and that weren't really my thing. It was like repetition and being like competitive and like people coming online and trying to beat me and things like that. So that's what I love most, like over dailies, to be honest.
Yeah, I do. The time trial is fun, and when you get into them, and when it's a nice combination, and you can just get into it and try and improve your time as much as you can. It does, especially when even some of them are so hard, even just to get 3%. But then if you can get into that knack and find a bit more, isn't it? And you maybe get into the 1.5% away or thereabouts. I always think that's quite fun when it all starts to work. Now we've got another good question from it is Hamajil. It is, what is the most memorable moment from all of your streaming history? Good or bad, funny or shocking?
There's been so many. That one in particular really stands out just because it was literally 5 hours doing one corner as a newbie driver and getting on the world rankings. That I'll never forget. Like I screamed. But like things that are nice as well, like moments that like I immediately think of is like my 1 year anniversary stream. Where I did all these weird challenges and sabotages and this wall was created on the night. I was eating mustard, I was eating onions raw. So just like some really wild stuff, but like tears of laughter. And that's those are the moments I love most.
That's what makes it, really, isn't it? When you can have a laugh like that and make it all, and then it all starts to work. That and the real mystic was saying it was him losing fuel and he missed the pits. So
that
he must
was
have.
so funny. That was one of the best. That was I thought I was gonna die on stream, to be honest. I lost oxygen from laughing that much. He on one of the races he ran out of fuel, hit the pit wall like 3 times, and then had to go round at like 30 miles an hour. I've never laughed so hard in a long time, honestly.
Now that's the thing. So how did you find, because when you had your communities meeting at Donington, did you quite enjoy watching the touring cars as well? Because they can be quite spectacular when they race around there.
Yeah, I mean it was a bit wet and cold that day. So the racing actually got postponed for hours.
Oh no.
So we had a few beers together and just general chat. We've had a few races, caught a few races in the end, which was great. It was an experience because I've never seen the British Touring Cars live, and with all the people that you sort of stream with on a weekly basis. So it was just a really good vibe all around, to be honest. And then they did like the classic and the silly little like minis and things like that, which was really fun. So it was good.
Now here's the thing. Keith only has just asked the question: how did you end up on the Hugh Hatrick show? He says he does say Hugh is awesome, which is very kindly accepted, and but you seem cool too, and he's just subbed to your channel.
Thank you so much, Keith. How did I end up here? So it was the finale of TTT, I think, and I was just signing out, and Hugh came in and was like, "Let's talk," and I was like, "Right, message me. I'm going. Bye." It was literally
in the last few
like
seconds. Yeah, because I hoped, I was like trying to type in as quickly as I could in the comments and hoping that you might see it. Because it was actually Rue that invited me to your channel and said that you were streaming on at that time. So that's how that's all worked. Now Rue has asked the question here. He says, "What is your favourite song to sing on stream?"
Oh my gosh, I do so much karaoke. Have you seen my karaoke stream?
I'll have to watch this. I'll have to watch.
In fact, I'm going to throw this back to everyone who's watching. What is the most memorable song that I sing? Because I feel like I sing a lot, and you're always telling me to stop. So please, will you answer that question for me? Because I don't know.
Oh, you're welcome to sing on stream if you want to, but it's
You'd lose viewers very quickly, honestly.
But no, that's the thing of you have your highlights and be able to do things when they ask you to do that. Yeah. I think I did actually get that. You were singing that quote that Romeo has just quoted just now at the end, which was great, which was quite funny. I thought, well, at least you're still going on stream, so you'll get my comment. But no, that is quite a thing. What inspired you to sing that one?
I don't know. Obviously on Twitch, so like on YouTube you get like super chats and thanks and all those things. On Twitch it's bits, so people give you bits, and it's like it's a Twitch currency essentially. And I think sometimes you're like, oh, get your bits out, guys. It's like it's a bit of it's funny, but then it just turned into get your biddies out, and then it turned into a song, and now it's like every time someone gives bits, so it's just become a whole performance.
A phrase that just happened. That just quite. That's very good. Now that's fantastic. So let's get some more questions from the community for Tiny, so that we can keep things all going. But they all say that they love your singing, and they definitely say
they're lying because they're normally telling me to stop.
And there's a thing. Where did Natorade start?
Natorade, right? So everybody basically somehow gets a nickname. There's so many names that I'm dealing with in the stream, and sometimes I just change people's names. So like the person who asked the question is Hammer. He's got a whole theme tune which is Hammer Time.
Oh, yeah, of course, for Hammer Time, yeah.
It just happens like someone's name, and obviously Natorade sounds like Gatorade, and then it just became Natorade, and like this, what I mean. It just like the biddies, it just manifests into like something else.
Yeah. Now that's the thing. And so, have you got plans to do any more big kind of community meetups and things like that in the near future?
I hope so. I'm looking at maybe doing something well, I might not say too much yet, but maybe something next year with the UK turnips. It's hard because a lot of the turnips are worldwide. Like we've got so many Aussies, quite a few Americans, and people just dotted around over Europe and things. So I always feel like I'm leaving people out, but I'm hoping to do something with like the UK turnips if I can next year.
Yeah. I'll have to say we were at Silverstone over the weekend, but I think the British Grand Prix. I mean, because we had a great time watching all of that. But when they had a demonstration run of the Mercedes F1 car in the wet, and it just flew past. It was the most amazing thing because I hadn't seen Formula Ones for years. But I think the British Grand Prix, that would be a great thing to see, isn't it? So we can get, obviously it's a bit more expensive, but
I know everyone has to remortgage, but yeah.
No problem at all. I'm sure we can do that. But no, it is. I think when you go to an event, it is great, especially a motor racing one. But actually, there's a lot of stuff on at Silverstone and other places throughout the year, aren't they? That are more kind of a lot more affordable, and then you can still have a barbecue and enjoy kind of the community when you're there. That now quickly goes question. More drop to the back of Natorade, says XX FIFA.
I mean, if I could, I would, but it's whatever the wheel of doom spins.
So what would be? I was going to say for what are your favourite tunes as well for your community? What ones stand out other than the ones that we talked about Natorade? But are there other little kind of catchy tunes that you have for them?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. Like I'm blanking out, but like there's just so many that happen. Like Romeo's got his own because he's got Romeo. There's loads. Honestly, everyone seems to have a little jingle. If it can make it work. And obviously you've got the biddies and like the Wheel of Doom. We've just had someone, one of the old turnip, well, still a turnip, but old racing turnips. Matt, he's created an actual song for Twisted Track Days now as well. So music runs through it. And I love doing like karaoke like streams. It's just really random. Like we'll just get singing and driving and it's good fun.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. And Simon has said the Silverstone Festival was much more fun and accessible in terms of getting to the garages and seeing the cars. That was definitely true. There were thousands of cars actually that people had brought, and from all the great eras as well. It is a great bit to go and see. Now, Rue has said, "How often are you murdered on track? Is it because of your face or the singing?" And he's put a smiley comment there.
I'm murdered a lot on track, but I don't think I'm particularly special in that sense. I think like dailies can just go that way. In the community events, like it can get a little bit rough. But I've got to just bear in mind that my whole streaming career has been based around making people suffer on track. So I probably deserve a little bit back.
Hi, that's the thing. And now you have, what was your most and least favourite sabotage? And is there one that has a special place?
Yeah, my favourite for sure is the reverses. I just think that's always funny. Like it can never, because like for example the 360s, they're great and they're dramatic and they're impressive for people to see. But reversing just it isn't easy, and and even the best drivers get unsettled by it. And that is where it started. That's where it started. We made Hawko do a lap in reverse, and then he could spin around and try and chase us down. So the reverse is my favorite by a long way. Least favorite, probably the gear change ones. If I'm honest, they can land really like depending on the track. So for example, for anyone who doesn't watch TTT, people get stuck in either second gear or fifth gear for 2 minutes and they can't change gear. And it's funny if they get stuck in second and it's like, by first they've got to go uphill and it's hard work. But sometimes if they get stuck in fifth and it's a fast track, it doesn't really affect them that much. So that's the one that is probably the least impactful, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, Miss Kirsten has said there's a samba bus is coming. The samba bus is coming.
The samba bus is coming and everybody's jumping. See, everything's a song. Everything's a song.
That's pretty good. My father used to be able to sing a song for every letter of the alphabet, but you've got a song for every car and every name. I
do, honestly.
Oh, that's brilliant. That now, Rob has said, what was your favourite livery or livery?
Livery. There's been quite a few now. So we do livery points for throughout the series. So every race week has a different theme. This isn't for the community nights. This is for the TTT series.
Yeah.
So that theme could be sports, board games, chocolate, sweets, anything like that. And we give points out to the best ones. I think the only one that's won a prize so far is Mrs. Romeo's watermelon car. It was Rogue Energy themed. It's when I just became a Rogue Energy partner.
Yeah.
And she did the livery so that it was iridescent red and green, like a watermelon with the dots, the seeds. And however you looked at the car, it was either a bit green and red, or red and it just looked like a watermelon. But like, I'll share the image of the car. It was so impressive.
I'll see it in here for you.
It was amazing.
People do amazing liveries now, aren't they? That's the thing. They can create these pictures and do. I don't know how they managed to do it using the settings that they have on the game. Because it seems when I try and do it, I'm lucky if I get one sticker and it looks going out of the wrong angle in the wrong place. But I know it is quite a thing. But while we're waiting for that, I'll ask you a quick question. If you could go to a Grand Prix, which one would it be?
So I was lucky enough when I was a little girl, I went to Portugal
All right.
for the Grand Prix there when that was one of the tracks. So if that was ever a track, I would go back. But the current tracks...
That must have been a while ago. When that was
I was a little girl. I was like...
that would have been in the 90s.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
it was Michael Schumacher, because I had a red Ferrari jumpsuit. This is where the red Ferrari thing comes from, obviously. I was probably like 4 or 5 then, but that was cool. I've got loads of pictures of that. It was kind of a special thing because we traveled around Europe, and that was we ended up going to the Grand Prix in Portugal. But now, right, so this is really controversial because there's such classic tracks, but where would I want to go just for like the experience and like the whole thing?
Yeah,
Vegas.
Yeah, it does look good though, doesn't it? I think because it's far more interesting than Miami. I thought the Miami one just was a bit fake and a bit kind of too much, but Vegas actually looked like a really good track. But also, it is. I mean, Vegas is just an amazing place. It's one of the places I love to go. I've never been, but I think just with all the kind of famous hotels and landmarks that they pass on the track is brilliant. And I think it was actually quite a good race last year. But I would love to go to Monaco. I think Monaco would be an amazing one to see. But yeah, and if there was like one in the past, if the Grand Prix from that's been in the past that you would have loved to have seen, what would that have been?
Sorry,
if you could have gone to any Grand Prix in the past, what would it have been?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'd probably say,
would it be Abu Dhabi 2021?
Well, yeah. I was thinking of like when like that whole Lewis and Rosberg year happened, when that was all crazy between them.
2016. Yeah, that was
2016. Yeah, I'd probably go somewhere along that journey where it all just started to go a bit south between them two, because that was one hell of a battle between them in the end. That was incredible. And obviously, Lewis had so many problems with his car, and like the frustration and things like that. And I wasn't a big Rosberg fan either, to be honest, but.
No, not many people were. I think that was the thing. They were. That was the thing. But I always remember watching that race in Abu Dhabi when Rosberg won, because Lewis was ahead, but he was trying to slow down so much just so that somebody would try and pass Rosberg. He was doing all his tricks, and that shows how such a good driver he was to try and get because that was his only chance of winning the title. And of course, a lot of people like Spa as well, isn't it? They love the races that are on at Spa. But yeah, no, I would have quite liked the Mansell era because that's when I started being a Grand Prix fan in the early 90s. And I think seeing some of those British Grand Prix wins, I think that would have been amazing. When literally the people just he actually ran somebody over on the slowdown lap because there were crowds everywhere and they couldn't get out of the way. And he ran somebody over in his car, and they gave him a handshake afterwards. They were fine, and I think he must have just run over their foot or something.
Oh my
But
goodness.
it was kind of crazy. Now Hama has said, how long are TTT races? Is it sprint or endurance or mixed? And which do you like more?
So it started out as sprint races. We used to do five races of 5-lap sprints, and each race would have its own associated sabotages. So, for example, we'd have a target practice. So if you won one race, you'd become a target for the next race. One race would be first lap in reverse, and then the rest of the race forward. Things like that. So they were fun and they were quick and snappy. But what we found with those, we were having loads of racing incidents, like racing incidents. When you sabotage your people's races, it was just becoming more arguing than it was driving. And then we looked to change it because people would just try to dive in because it was 5 laps.
Yeah,
diving into the first corner, no time to make any moves, blah blah blah. So then we changed it last year or the end of last year to endurance. So it's now 2 1-hour endurance races where people don't have to start pushing people off track. There's so much time to catch up. We have boost on week as well. So if someone gets like the most horrific sabotage, like for example, Hawko the other week, he had to reverse for 2 minutes. He ended up 3 minutes behind the pack and he actually won the race. So this...
Wow.
It's worked out better for the format that we're doing now, that people still have the chance to come back, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. And I saw a good question here. Here we are. In fact, I can even actually show it here. What do you think of the Nürburgring Nordschleife? And Mystic, personally, he likes it. Do you like the Nürburgring Nordschleife?
To drive it or to watch other people drive it? That is the question. Yeah, it's a stunning track. And I like to drive it on my own. I've not had much race experience there, if I'm honest, on the game, obviously. I'd love to go see it in real life. I was actually talking to someone, one of the viewers are going there, and they were just explaining, because I said I couldn't, because I'd be so scared. You're not insured when you're on it and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd be so scared of just doing something stupid. I'd end up driving at 20 miles an hour and it'd be pointless. And apparently if you hit a barrier, it's like £1,000 per piece of barrier.
Goodness.
So I was like, no, but I'd love to, if it was a possibility and, I won the lottery or something.
You just have to take a rental. You have to take a rental car.
But that's even worse, because then you owe someone else the whole car.
Make sure you get the excess cover, and when you take it back, you just say, well, I'm sure that will polish out. But that is similarly what people do. They just go at the rental site and hire a car and take it around there, and then of course they're left with a huge bill when they realise it's not insured if they have a bump. But,
I definitely think it's nice to drive on my own, like in the game. But as soon as you put the car, it's so tight, isn't it? Like, I don't like it amongst other cars. I'm not very good.
And what's your least favourite track, actually? If you think all the tracks on GT7 or even in the what ones do you least like driving around?
It's got to be one of the like tight wally tracks in Tokyo. I'm thinking.
Or the expressway, the short expressway.
One of them, yeah. I get a bit overwhelmed, especially if it's like a group 4 or something. Like that's fine, but as soon as you start adding like speed and walls, and they're just coming at you so fast, and there's lights and it's dark and everything, my brain doesn't process that quick, unfortunately.
But yeah, and what I was trying to think of, if you've been buying cars, and obviously you drive a nice car, a Jaguar. Have you had some funny test drive experiences of cars you would have maybe liked to have driven and then decided that you were put off, or the other way around, cars that maybe you thought you might not like, but then you found that you did like them?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of track experiences with I had a Mitsubishi Lancer and the Impreza, actually. I drove that in real life. That was incredible. I would own both of those cars in a heartbeat. There wasn't much between them at all. It was mainly the gears were shorter in the Lancer, if I got it the right way around. So that felt like you were moving like a lot quicker, like you were changing through the gears a lot quicker. But both of those cars I'd own in a heartbeat. A car that I actually owned and like I couldn't speak badly enough about it was a Mazda 3.
Oh, yeah.
Worst car I've ever driven, ever. and I would never own another Mazda again as a result. And I actually like slander Mazda because the car was just awful. They have these weird pedals. Like obviously normally you press like your pedal from the top, and they have
yeah, they're on the other side, yeah, like a
oh,
BMW. Yeah.
awful car. So yeah, bin Mazdas, bring in the Lancers.
That does sound like a nice replacement, certainly.
Yeah.
And Larson has just joined us. So it's good to see you, Larson. Now, I saw a good question here from Scooby PCM. He says, what's your favourite driving, racing, car-based movie?
That's an interesting one. Cars. Truthfully, I don't watch that much car stuff, if I'm honest. I've not even seen the Gran Turismo movie yet.
I wouldn't worry about
I'm
that.
not
It's
really
pretty
into
awful.
sort of documentary films either. So yeah, I don't have that much in my repertoire. Obviously, car programs, Top Gear, Grand Tour, all that, love it, lap it up.
Yeah.
Movies, not so much, not my kind of bag, really.
It's very hard to do a good movie, isn't it? A car-based movie. The only one I like was Rush. I quite like Rush.
Yeah,
which was Niki Lauda and James Hunt. I like that one. I watched the Gran Turismo movie and I got about half through it and I couldn't take any more. It was terrible. I just couldn't. And I like car programs. If they're writing a car movie, if they do it well, it can be great. But I thought the acting was terrible, and it was like playing a game, and you could just tell who it was aimed at, and it just didn't flow as a movie at all. But so I wouldn't worry about seeing that one. Now let's have a quick look. Rue was saying that he was passed by a Lancia Delta Integrale, like I was standing still on the A470. Yeah, I imagine those kind of cars are something else. But
they're amazing. I'd actually own one of them. I think they're the coolest little cars. Like we did a race where it was Deltas versus. Oh God, guys, tell me who did we put Deltas against? Can't remember, but yeah, brilliant racing. Like fell in love with the Lancia Delta for sure. It's funny.
Yeah, so they still make it, don't they? I'm sure there's a company in Italy, or one of they actually they've made just like an original car. So it's almost but better brakes and kind of slightly obviously more modern, kind of up to date interior, suspension parts and the rest of it. I can't remember what kind of cost it was. Is that kind of a thing you would quite like what they call a retro mod? If you could buy a car from the past, because there are some really nice ones out there.
I don't know how much it suit me because I really do like my big SUVs and like that kind of car. But I'll give it a go. Why not?
Actually, a car you should have a go in is the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio, because that's a great car. That's got a Ferrari engine in it. I drove one a few years back, and it's a 3-liter turbocharged, I think it is. But it's the same. It's a Ferrari engine that they put in it. And they've come down in price quite a bit as well. You can get an early one now for probably late 20s, early 30s. But yeah, it's it's 4-wheel drive, and it drives really well. But in fact, Hamid has got a question here. He says, a car that you looked at and instantly fell in love with, just by the looks of it, what would it be?
Ooh, instantly fell in love with. Is it like, so I've seen this car in real life. In fact, yeah, a car that I've seen in real life and I fell in love with, and I drove in Skyline V60. Beautiful car. Someone that family friend modded one of them up and used to take it down Santa Pod, for the so he used to, whilst he was like tuning the engine and messing around with it, he used to take me out and do donuts in it.
Yeah,
beautiful car. They are stunning. They're like proper cars, aren't they? They're like
I've never been in a Nissan GTR, to be fair, but it's quite a big car, isn't it? I mean, they're quite wide and quite chunky. So it's and yet it looks heavy, but they seem to be able to drive incredibly well, and the dynamics of it seem to be really good. But no, it's quite a thing. Now, Rue is accusing me, saying that they do a 2-liter, but that's not a Ferrari engine. I'm sure in the Alpha, I think it's a 3-liter turbocharged, and it's built by Maserati, but it is a Ferrari design. So it's the cheapest way into a Ferrari engine car in the UK. It's the same engine that they put into the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. And another. Well, they've got that car on. We've got it on GT7, I think. Now, Larson has said, Hugh, can you ask Tiny what's the best piece of advice she's ever been given?
I think it's a piece of advice everyone's received, but no one really takes it on board until they get a bit later on in life. But like nobody cares. Don't care what anybody thinks. Like, don't care what anybody thinks. Like, don't hold yourself back because of what someone might think of you.
Yeah.
And it's so easier said than done. So much easier said than done. And I think, like I say, it comes later in life where you have that bit of life experience and you realize nobody actually does care. Like, just get on with it.
Yeah.
And I think I would have actually started this journey so much sooner had I got out of my own head that people, like maybe people I went to school with or people that I've like worked with or whatever, would be like, what is she doing? She's like 30 years old. Why is she playing video games? Like, the judgment. And look how well we're doing in 1 year.
Yeah.
If I had not held myself back, so anyone young watching, I'd say just don't care what anyone thinks, and if you want to do it, go do it, honestly.
Yeah.
As long as it's legal.
Yeah. Well, that's it at the end.
Just put that in
there. But yeah, no, I think that is true, because I mean, when you think many people we all went through COVID, didn't we? All the lockdowns, and that's when all these kind of communities really took off. Or many of the bigger ones took over, the ones that have been around for a long time. But the fact that you've created this really in 6 months, and to get to the kind of levels that you're at is excellent. And it shows that good communities stick together, and in turn they can grow, and then you've got something, and it is fun. I always used to kind of put it like, before, folk would go to the pub and have a chat with the people that they know and talk about whatever it is, cars or the local things that have been happening. But now it's all done online, isn't it? And when you're actually there, you kind of have the person that you like to follow, and you see them race and they talk away or do things, and then that's your community, isn't it? That's kind of a chance to have a kind of social time as well. So I think it can be a great thing, as long as you don't take it too seriously. I think you have to make sure that you have a life around gaming as well, isn't it? Because otherwise, if it's just gaming, then it can take over your life. And I think, but at the same time, if you really feel you've got a skill for it, then it's a good career to pursue.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now let's have a look at some of the questions here. We've got, what was the biggest challenge during streaming in your career so far?
Hands down, tech. Tech is the biggest challenge. We were discussing just before we went live, actually. It doesn't matter how much you know about tech or how much you think you know about tech until you plug it all in and realize it's never going to work. Or like halfway through a stream, your audio just completely goes kaput, or your capture card decides to burn out, or just there's so many things. I think that is the biggest challenge. And the actual reason that I started on GT7, and this is all because of tech. So I initially started streaming playing Call of Duty, and I initially started streaming directly from my PlayStation to stream. I wanted to enhance the stream on OBS, or I was actually on Streamlabs at the time. I could not, no matter what I did, no matter what expert I asked to help me, get the game audio to match what was going on the stream. And this went on for months, and it was so frustrating because people were... My chat was just consumed. Do you know your audio doesn't match? Do your audio? And I felt like giving up. I really felt like giving up. I was like, this is never going to work. Like, it's just awful. And then my next stream, I streamed GT7 because obviously it's not live. It doesn't have those like lag issues and things like that.
Yeah.
And literally this all started. I got raided out by a couple of big GT7 streamers at the time, just by fluke, and it just took off. So if it hadn't been for the tech issues, probably wouldn't be here right now.
That's it's amazing what can go wrong, isn't it? To try and then trying to make it all reliable, but it's definitely worth getting it all sorted. Now here we are. There was a question here from the Real Mystic. He says, Tiny, we all know that you are a Manchester United fan, but what do you think of Arsenal?
So Arsenal and Manchester United have got a huge history. So if you remember back to like the treble year, the invincible year, we've got huge history with Arsenal. They're obviously not direct rivals as such anymore. Back then, it was way bigger. You had like your Keenan Vieira era and all that. Now, honestly, I just want them to win the bloody Premier League and stop giving it to City and bottling it. I think they've got a good team. They've got a good manager. And if it's not going to be United and it's a choice of like Arsenal, Liverpool, City, blah, 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 I think I'd rather Arsenal come back. It's been like 20 years since they won the league anyway. So, yeah, good team. I've not really got any hard feelings or hate towards them, to be honest. But yeah, it does go back a bit further than that with us.
So do you go to matches as well?
Yeah, I'm a season ticket holder. Actually, my life around gaming is football. That's my big hobby. I follow them around the world where I can, not so much nowadays, but yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. Live and breathe it.
It's a huge thing, isn't it? I know I've got friends who follow Scotland when they go, rarely when they go to the Euros, but they did follow them this year, and yeah, it's they go on a big bus, and I think they quite enjoy traveling around the country. And losing in various different places. When they try, the hype is very high, but unfortunately the standards cannot live up to the hype. But now HRA Romeo has said, who is your favourite driver in TTT and why is it Romeo?
My favourite driver in TTT is Mrs. Romeo. It's been really lovely to have a female amongst all the males and the egos and the testosterone. So Mrs. Romeo, not that I should have favourites, is my favourite.
And here's a question here. We want turnip merchandise. Is there anything anywhere?
Yeah, there is lots of turnip merchandise. If you go to droopydesigns.com, you can either go directly through there or /Tiny Turnip. That'll take you directly to the page. There's loads, t-shirts, hoodies, everything you can imagine in there. So yeah, have a look.
That's very good. Now, I have put your YouTube channel in the description, the link for your channel in there. So if there are people who have not already subscribed to Tiny's channel, then please go and do so later on after the show. The link is in the description. Now, would you like, in years to come, to compete more with, because like there's a lot of female sim racing championships that they're trying to do and things like that. Have you been invited to do anything, or would you like to try and get involved with something like that?
I've been invited to loads of things, and it's really, really kind. At the moment, it's not something I really have the capacity to do. Time-wise, I'm really strapped. Truthfully, right now, I'm not. This sounds really like get your mini violins out, everyone. I'm not good enough to be there right now, and it would take me a lot of work to be there. At the moment, I'm just enjoying having what we have going on and building to my strengths. And I just think that would take a lot of time for me to get there right now.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's although I think in some of the championships, the standards do vary quite a bit. It's so it's but they seem to be getting quite popular. And I suppose it's something you can do in time if you want to, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like I never say never. Like I'm a firm believer of never say never. You never know what's going to happen and how things change. But I think in terms of like my ability and availability right now, it's not where I'm going.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Now, Scooby has said, do you feel guilty for emptying his wallet between buying your merchandise or convincing him to try Hawkstone Lager? It's costly being a turnip.
No, I don't feel guilty because that Hawkstone Lager, the session, it is good. It is good beer, and that's not going in my pocket. That's going in Jeremy Clarkson's pocket.
Yeah, people have said it is good, and he's just opened a pub, isn't he? He's just opened a pub.
Yeah.
Finally, it's been allowed to go ahead. That no, it's I'm all for him doing that. I think that is good fun. And here's a question as well from Hamajil. Do you think girls/women have it easier or harder in the streaming industry, or is it totally irrelevant?
I think it depends on what angle you're asking the question from. Financially, I think it's easier. I think it's easier to make more money as a woman. Truthfully, this is just being frank.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
As a woman, however, in certain games, I think it's harder to get respect. Not that you have to earn respect, but like for example, it doesn't. Sometimes you'll see on my shorts, I could literally do the most insane thing that you've ever seen. I could break a world record, and somehow I'll still have like 100 woman driver or like mansplaining comments. Literally, I could be driving a straight line and get that kind of feedback. So, from a money point of view, it's easier. Mm-hmm. From a sort of a stereotypical point of view, depending on what game you're playing, I think it can be a lot harder.
Yeah. I know that is interesting. It's a good answer there. Now we have here. Rue has said to remember to mention his favourite drivers, including Penny Mallory, the Simonite sisters, and the incredible Michelle Mouton. Now, Michelle Mouton was a rally driver, and so is Penny Mallory. In fact, she shared the Ford Focus at the time when Colin McRae was driving for Ford. And there's a video with her being asking Colin questions as they're doing a rally stage. And it's quite impressive because he's going full whack. But Penny is able to still carry on asking these questions without any issue, where most reporters would be hanging on for their dear lives. But she used to do Driven with Mike Brewer on Channel 4 and Jason Plato. But there you have it. There's my mentioning Rue's favourites.
You got it.
As to how it goes. Now, question: what from the Real Mystic? What is my nickname? And if I have a jingle, what would it be?
Oh, you can't force these things. When it comes, it will happen. You know, your nickname at the moment is just Mystic, but as I say, everyone ends up with some sort of variation of their name. So we'll see what next season of TTT brings, what comes out of my mouth.
No, that's the thing. As you say, it's going to take time to get to know somebody, isn't it? And then to get a name that suits, and then a jingle.
Some don't have them, like Mrs. Romeo. Nevi has one. Nev, Super Nev. Mrs. Romeo doesn't have one. And she's been with us a long time. It's just not one that's turned into a jingle. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's not a personal thing.
Yeah. Well, the Mystic has said, fair enough. So he'll just have to wait and see. You have to get one for Rue. I'm sure he would like a jingle for Rue. We'll have to see what it would be for that. But now let's see. I'll have a quick look at some of the questions here. I think we've covered many topics tonight, which is great.
Yeah.
Yes, Larson has said, was the spaghetti bolognese as tasty as it looked? I missed that one.
Yeah. I love cooking. So maybe one time I'll have to invite all the turnips around for a dinner or something. But yeah, it was beautiful. It's my favorite. It's my go-to if I'm ever needing some comfort food. Spaghetti bolognese is the way.
That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, it's always good. I like a carbonara. That's what I always quite like, a carbonara. And it's funny because whenever I buy one, sometimes I get I'll make it originally, and then other times I'll get like a little pat lunch one, for a made up microwave meal, and then I find they're already eaten because my daughter will take it before I can have it. She likes them too, so it'll be like, I saw a carbonara in the fridge. And that was it. She'll have it.
It's mine.
So exactly. It's already gone. You're finishing work, looking forward to your carbonara, and it's gone by the time you get home. So that's it.
Yeah.
But no, that's fantastic. Well, it's been amazing to have you on the show. We've done over an hour and 10 minutes of great chat and questions, and I really appreciate you coming on. And it's amazing what you've done with your channel. And I know you're saying that you just want to continue doing what you're doing because it's working so well, which is great. And I'm sure we can have you on again in a wee while, whenever you would like to come back and give us updates. And hopefully I'll try and get involved in one of your TTT nights. So I'll have to. And yes, that was the question. When are your community nights? What day do you do them on?
So we have two different events. So community nights, where it's just racing on track, is a Wednesday night. About 9 o'clock UK time, we kick off. Just do a couple of hours, few sprint races. First come, first served. Recommend anyone who's not in the Discord gets in our Discord, because once the track goes live, it fills up super quick. So it's like an early thing. But yeah, free to join that at any point. The series that I run, where it's competitive, there's prizes, and Turnips for Track Day, which you've probably heard me refer to the whole way through. That is on a Friday night. Now we are in a break at the moment, so because it's competitive and there's prizes and a lot more on the line than just sort of turning up and racing. A bit more planning goes into it. This year, we've just finished the last series, and the new series is actually going to start the first Friday of 2025. So we have got a little break. But as I say, stay on touch with my socials and Discord, and any updates that come, we'll go through there.
Because you're on TikTok as well, aren't you? You're
on everything.
Yeah, I've never done TikTok. That's the one thing I've not done. But have you found it to be a big success? Has it been quite a good platform for you?
Yeah, it's good for pushing out the shorts. Obviously, because it's not long form content. It's very quick content. I'm very close to 10K on TikTok at the moment. That's my next milestone. The next one to sort of monetize, because 10K is the monetization on TikTok. It's been good so far, but I'm excited to see once you get over that line what happens, because sometimes you can bottom out, so we'll see.
Oh well, I'm sure you'll go from strength to strength, because it all seems to be building, which is really good, and you're putting a huge amount into it, and it does. I think that consistency, I'm sure, will help to build it structurally, so that you can then enjoy the rewards of it. And you have certainly a community that is very fond of you, which is lovely to see. So no, it's been so nice, and it's been lovely to be able to have you on the show, and find out your history, find out what's been happening, and what makes the channel tick, and where you're going in the future. So it's something on a Monday night, we have a 2-hour, normally about an hour to 2 hour stream, where we talk about GT7, but mainly about the dailies and F1. You'd be very welcome to come on to that anytime. If ever you did want to, especially if there's a big race or something you would like to talk about, just keep us. We'll keep in touch on the Discord, and that would be super. But as you probably are not aware, I'm a bus driver, and I do school bus driving. So with that being also playing these racing games, we came up with a line, which I usually do, a kind of cheesy line, for ending the show. And this week, because of all the GT7 issues with daily races that always use comfort softs on the most ridiculous cars, we always say, drive fast, but drive your bus on comfort softs. So
I love it.
Thank you so much, Tiny Turnip, for coming on the show. Thank you to everyone who has been watching and listening on the podcast as well. This will go out on Podbean in a couple of days' time. But Hamlet is a bus driver as well, so it's fantastic. I do school buses, which is great fun. But it's been great to have you all on the show and to be commenting away and asking wonderful questions. And I wish you all the best for continued success of your channel and your career, doing gaming and much more. But take care, everyone. Stay on the line just now, Tiny, while I end the show, if that's okay.
No problem.
And we'll see you very soon.
Thanks, everyone.